Hi there. This is the 2022 Volkswagen Golf R, and it is a hot hatch. Now, when you hear the term hot hatch, you think of two things: flat brim baseball hats and vape smoke, and plenty of each. The thing is, for a long time, the Golf R has been the alternative to your typical hopped up high performance hatchback. The question is this new guy, the Mark 8, still the smart hot hatch to buy? Well, that's what we're gonna find out. What makes a Golf R? Well, essentially, it's a Volkswagen Golf with a lot of horsepower and all-wheel drive, whereas the Volkswagen GTI makes a medium amount of horsepower, but it's front-wheel drive. And Volkswagen has been making the R for a while now. This is actually the 4th generation. It started with the Mark 5, then the Mark 6, then the awesome Mark 7, and now the new one here, the Mark 8. What does the Golf R compete with? These days in the US market, we're talking about the Honda Civic Type R, the Hyundai Veloster N, both the Subaru WRX and the STI, and even the 2-liter version of the Toyota Supra GR. As far as the design of the new Golf R goes, it's pretty good until you compare it against the last generation car. And when you look at that one compared to this one just looks like it's been overinflated by 10 PSI. There's nothing glaringly wrong with it, but you can kind of like nitpick this thing to death. I'll give you a couple for instances. See this piece of black plastic right here, and there's one in the back too. Well, why is that there? It's there because there's some market somewhere where legally the car body's too narrow. And so rather than actually like redesigning the metal, which is expensive, they glued on some plastic, which is cheap. Also, time was, Volkswagen used to be the masters of bending metal. You'd go to a car show, they'd debut a new car, and you'd see engineers from other companies walk up and stare. How are they able to do that on a car at this price point? And that's just not the case with the 8th generation Golf. Coming down the side, this is weird, and you have to kind of stand at this angle to see it, but it really tapers in at the rear here. So it means that like the fattest part of the car is right here in the middle. Take it from a fat guy, that's not a good look. You don't want that. You want the rear to kind of be the fattest part of the car. And then out back, I mentioned that, it's supposed to be this undercover performance car. Well, look, it's got a big wing with a big black lip on it, and it's got a diffuser with 4 exhaust pipes, 1 per cylinder. It's sort of overdone at the rear for a Golf R. So again, overall, not a bad design in any way, pretty good looking, but compared to the last one, I think the Mark 8, design-wise, misses the mark. If the exterior of the Golf R is a step backwards, the interior is a much larger step backwards, and it's kind of hard to overstate what a miss we feel this is. But here's the deal. Used to be that the Golf R was like undercover Audi, right? For VW money, you were getting like an S3 or an RS3, and this simply isn't. I mean, the materials are okay, although what on earth is this supposed to be? I don't know, some kind of dotted plastic. They've really minimalized buttons. There aren't any except for right here, and you have like this 911 style gear selector, but everything runs through this screen. And if it worked really well, that would be great. It doesn't. It's not good. I don't know how else to put it, but like everything, climate goes through that screen. Your drive modes go through this screen. And it's frustrating and confusing. I'm still not really sure how to turn everything off. And I'm also not sure if you can turn everything off. And I've driven the car. Like, that's not good. So, it's just, there's really not much else to talk about except for this infotainment system. And it's not right. It's half-baked. They gotta fix it. They have to fix it. And I would like some actual physical controls for stuff like temperature and fan speed. But if I want to change the speed of the fan, I can't do it from the screen. I got to go to this button here and then slide this thing around, and it's just it's frustrating. As far as the car itself goes, look, it's a Golf. The seats are okay. They're fairly sporty, although I feel that the ones in the previous model were sportier or higher quality. Steering wheel's great, it's roomy enough. Because it's a Golf, it's quite practical. The back seat is large for this type of vehicle. If you put the seats down, you can haul a lot of stuff. It becomes a very useful vehicle. But again, hard to overstate what a just miss this car is in terms of the interior. Performance is one place where the Golf R could really redeem itself and kind of continue the legend of the Golf R. And check out the engine. Under that hood is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder motor that makes 315 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. And when you combine that with Volkswagen's DSG, that's their name for their dual clutch transmission, powering all 4 wheels, you can hit 60 miles an hour in 4.3 seconds. That's quick. That's what a Shelby Cobra does. I mean, that's real performance in a small hatchback. The manual is going to be slower, sure, but both transmissions are fine. The thing is, when it comes to actual handling, the brakes are good, but we had this vehicle at our Performance Vehicle of the Year competition, and before we started filming today, I went through all the judges' notes just to make sure what I was saying was in line with the MotorTrend philosophy, and every single judge said, it's okay. Man, the Mark 7 was so good. The new one's fine, but oh, I missed that Mark 7. Wow. And the overwhelming consensus was the new car, performance-wise, handling-wise, fun-wise, is a step backwards. And that's a shame. We hate to see that happen. As far as efficiency goes, 23 miles per gallon around town, 30 miles per gallon on the highway. As far as safety goes, no one has crash tested a Golf R yet, or for that matter, a GTI, so we just don't know. The Golf isn't being sold in the US, the regular one, so we don't know anything about the crash ratings. What I can tell you is that the Golf R comes in a single configuration. That means every car sold has every single feature there is. And in terms of automatic safety features, there's a whole bunch. It's got forward collision warning with automatic braking. It's got semi-autonomous drive modes. It has blind spot monitoring. It even has automatic high beams with swiveling headlamps when you're going around corners. So as far as active safety features go, this thing is pretty stacked. How much? All right, very specifically, this car, the base price is $45,440. As tested, $45,440. As I said, one trim, no options. Isn't that a lot of money? It is, but this car also hit 60 miles an hour in 4.3 seconds, so that's something to think about. What about the competition? It's expensive compared to what it competes against. If you look at the Hyundai Veloster N, this is easily $10,000 more, if not much more. The Honda Civic Type R technically is under $40,000, although good luck finding one of those that doesn't have a $7,000 to $10,000 dealer markup. Subaru hasn't announced prices for the new WRX, but it's probably going to be just under $30,000. The STI will be less than $40,000, and that Toyota Supra with the 2-liter is like just over $43,000 to start. So yeah, this is the most expensive car in its class, but it's also the quickest. If there's one thing I want you to know about the 2022 Mark 8 Volkswagen Golf R, it's that it's a step backwards. I hate when I have to say that about a new car, but it is the truth. I mean, the Mark 7 was up here. It was on a plateau. It was a watershed moment for hot hatches that we could buy in the US. It was just so good, and this one, it just isn't. Yeah, it's quick. It's definitely quick, but performance-wise, the handling's just not there. The fun isn't there. The smiles aren't there. I'm not super in love with the exterior, and then that interior, specifically the infotainment nonsense, is a deal breaker for a lot of people, present company included. But the real story is, could you get a Honda Civic Type R for less money? Technically, yes. Wouldn't you rather drive that? Yes, you would. To see vehicle rankings and a complete buyer's guide, please visit motortrend.com/cars.